What's really good, my people? Welcome into No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. NBA Finals Game 4 recap. Warriors bounce back in a big way, led by Stephen Curry, Wardell, number 30, whatever you want to call him. He went ballistic tonight, had 43. Seemed like he was locked in early. They bounced back. What was the final? 107. What did I say? 107-97 is the final score. They end up winning by 10 points.
A nice little cover for you.
A ball, yeah, nice little cover for me. I had under 214 and a Boston type closeout from the Warriors in this series to close out the fourth quarter. Let's jump right into it. We don't even have to go to any intros or none of that. Hey man, I hopped on this very own our very own podcast and said I was extremely worried about the Warriors. Boston looked like they were too much, and they come back in a major way and bounce back tonight. It looked and felt different, especially after I saw our guy Steph yelling at people in the crowd in the first quarter.
It was early on too.
Wait.
Early on.
I tweeted, I said, yo, Wardell is now barking at the Boston fans, buckle up. And that's exactly what we got. We got an awesome game. What'd you think about the game? Wiggins cleaning up the boards. We're going to get to Draymond Green and his rotation and Kerr pulling him in and out of games. What'd you think of the game? Clay ended up coming up big later. And once again, Jason Tatum.
Who?
disappears a little bit towards the end of the game. What'd you think of the game? What'd you think of the game overall?
Yeah, so first off, incredible game. Just like a truly incredible game.
This was the game we've been waiting for a minute.
It's the game we've been waiting for. It was back and forth, up and down. The stars came out, did their thing. I texted you. This was a Steph Curry masterpiece. Like early on, it was the Steph Curry masterpiece.
Masterclass, no doubt.
He had that look in his eyes. He was fired up. He understood how important it was for them to win this game. He knows that they lose this, the series is over. Even though they've blown a 3-1, they know that that's not going to happen again where they're going to come back from one, right?
Yeah.
Which would be crazy if it did happen. But it just seemed like he was fired up from the very beginning. And I texted you earlier. The other thing that stood out to me, and we can get to Steph. I don't think you could say enough about Steph in this game. But what really stood out to me early was Wiggins. I texted you. I was like, hey, this dude, first off, is an elite athlete. It's the type of guy that I feel like he would be professional in anything that he was going to do, right? If he was picking up a baseball, he'd be a professional baseball player. If he had a hockey stick, he'd be a professional hockey stick. Or hockey player. But he was clearly fired up. You saw him cleaning up on the glass. He was by far their second best player in this game. Defensively, he was incredible. Boston was turning the ball over left and right, and he seemed to be involved in all of that. Did a phenomenal job on Tatum in the fourth quarter. I've given Wiggins a lot of shit throughout his career, and rightfully so. It's because he's capable of performances like this. Like, they needed someone to get on the glass today. It was the main thing we talked about after Game 3. They were minus 17 Game 3. I think they were plus 13 this game. And I just saw on SportsCenter in the final 5 minutes of the game, they out-rebounded the Celtics 9-1.
I was going to say, because if I haven't even looked at the team box score yet, if that's the case, it had to come a bunch in the second half because Robert Williams was killing them in the first half.
In the first quarter, he was killing them. But in the second half, they started cleaning up on the glass. And again, it's funny, man. Rebounding is one of those statistics that when you see a wide gap in rebounding, you don't even have to tell me who won the game, right? I think it's just whatever the word is,
indictive,
whatever, of so many other things in the game, right? Hustle, extra possessions, different things like that. And obviously it killed them in Game 3. And tonight they flipped that, led by Wiggins. But it all starts and ends with Steph, man. I mean, that was a Steph Curry masterpiece. Like you said, Clay hit some shots late, but for most of the game was off. Draymond was terrible. Jordan Poole, he was playing like he was Kobe tonight. I mean, if he saw the ball, he was shooting the ball, but I think they kind of needed it because honestly, they weren't really getting it from anywhere else. And they needed to score. But defensively, I really thought the Warriors just really locked in towards the end of the game. And it was the Celtics who ended up having a ton of trouble scoring. And Jason Tatum, look, man, I don't know how many times we got to talk about this, but the Celtics couldn't put.
If I'm reading this correctly, he scored 2 points in the third.
Tatum?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
go ahead. Go with your point.
I was gonna say, yeah, with Tatum, I mean, we've been talking about this all series. We've been talking about it really all playoffs. He just has these stretches where he just disappears, and it seems to be at big moments, right? Granted, he's played well in this series at certain points, but tonight he could have been there to put this team away, and he was just not available. Also, quick shout out to Gary Payton the second, had huge minutes in the third quarter for the Warriors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm going through this, unless I missed something, did Tatum only score 2 points in the second half? No way.
I don't think that was the entire second half, was it? No, because he scored some in the
Yeah,
third. That's not possible.
I'm reading this incorrectly, I think. But either way, he was
It
8 of
wasn't
23.
it wasn't a lot.
All four of his threes came. Yo, shout out D. He was talking about two-way Wigs when we were giving him trouble the other day. But yeah, no, Wiggins played really well.
Yeah,
I think the
absolutely.
biggest thing, I texted you this. I thought it was a mistake when Draymond got in foul trouble. They took him out of the game. That Boston was trying to run the break with they were pushing the pace with these guys. And I texted you and I was like, why are they pushing the fast break like they want to get up and down when they could easily get in the half court and try to pick on some of these smaller guys with essentially Looney being the only big out there? I didn't understand that. That was early on.
Man,
But
they were turning the ball over
they were
all over the
turning the
place while
ball
they were
over
doing it.
because they were trying to push the pace crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't really get that part of the game plan. I didn't understand. I thought they could have slowed that down.
Why
But,
put the Warriors in transition? Like, that's the last thing you want to do.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
that was I didn't understand why they were pushing the pace as hard as they would. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to Steph. I keep like hinting at what happens when Steph has a bad game. I keep saying that. Like, what happens when Steph doesn't score 40? Or what happens when Steph doesn't score 30? They're going to get pummeled. And he is just – he's like, yo, Sean, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up here every night. I'm going to score 30, and then we're going to be in contention to win every game every night. And I'm going to come out in the third quarter, and I'm going to tuck these boys in and make it a close game
Every third quarter of the series.
They're 4 for 4 in the third quarter.
Every third quarter.
They've won every third quarter of the series.
They have destroyed them.
I just have to.
It's like that's where it's like if you're Udoka, you got to look at Udoka and be like, man, like there's nothing you guys can do to stop this bleeding. And to your point, like they were really trying to get out there and run with them.
Yeah.
While at the same time they were turning the ball over, which is giving the Warriors opportunities in transition. And the Warriors have been the best team in transition in the NBA over the past 8 years. So yeah, it really doesn't make sense why you would keep giving them opportunities. You know, take advantage of the defense that you have, slow it down a little bit, but don't get out there and try to run with these guys and give them as many opportunities as you can to score. It doesn't make any sense. It was a terrible game plan.
Tatum had 7 points in the second half.
Yeah, that's awful.
Hasn't scored 30 in the finals yet. And the end of the game, listen to this last 5 minutes for just the matchup in general. But listen to this last 5 minutes, I believe. Last 5:15 of the game, the Warriors scored 17 points on 5 of 8, 2 of 3 from Trey. The Celtics in the last 5:15 scored 3 points, were 1 of 8 from the field. And this is the other thing. 1 of 8 from the field, 1 of 7 from Trey. 7 of their 8 attempts
and that one
were from 3 the last 5:15.
The one was the ridiculous Marcus Smart shot.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was your only bucket in the final 5 minutes was a ridiculous Marcus Smart. Huge 3 by Marcus Smart, but a Marcus Smart 3 was the only bucket you were able to muster up on that team with all that talent.
So what do you think it is with Tatum? Because this is well, if Boston wins the series right now, Jaylen Brown's the MVP.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about this the other day, and our biggest argument about Steph, did Steph have a big game or not, was when stuff is going haywire, where it's a dream to have a guy like, all right, man, let me go ahead and go to the wing
take care of this
and dump this down to 0 and just calm all this because this shit's getting out of hand, right? The crowd is screaming. They're on a 6-7-0 run in the last 2 minutes. But don't worry, because I have a guy that I could go to on the wing that's going to be able to quiet down the crowd and go to work. And I think Tatum sees himself as that guy. He typically is that guy, but in these finals, in the second half and in late in the game, he hasn't been that guy.
Well, if you don't do it now, you're not that guy. I mean,
Huh.
again, they were available to put. You could have put them down tonight. It's not like the Warriors were kicking their ass up and down the court for four quarters. They you could have put them down tonight. And again, the same way I say that Steph knew they couldn't lose that game. If you're Tatum, you're like, yo, we got to win this game. Going up 3-1 is huge. If we go up 3-1, we're champions.
Yeah,
right?
They needed to come out like the Warriors came out.
Exactly. So where was that in the third and fourth quarter, right? Where was that in the final 16 to 20 minutes of the game when it's winning time at that point? We call that winning time for a reason. That's why I tell you when you score the points matters, right? You can do all that you want to do in the first half. You can look great. But if it comes down to the fourth quarter and you have the opportunity to put a team away and you're supposed to be that dude, right? You want to be Kobe, you want to be Jordan, you want to be Bron, you want to be any one of these dudes, these legends, right? Who have the jewelry and the stories. You got to do it at that moment, man. Like that shit matters. There is such a thing as the clutch gene. Like there is such a thing as like the closers. There's such a thing as the guys who are able to grab that. You know what I mean? There's a reason Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowls. Like it's different. Certain people understand when it's that moment, you got to perform. And tonight, he had an opportunity to put this team away. This team that was relying on scoring from one person. One person. Everybody else was doing other stuff. Looney was setting screens and grabbing rebounds. Wiggins was playing with crazy energy and getting buckets when he could, right? But he was still 7 for 17. It's not like he was shot 60%. So they got one guy out there, you know,
that's
getting
really
all the
playing
buckets.
efficient on the offensive end.
Exactly. And all you had to do was come out and do your thing. Even if that's facilitate, you don't got to score all the points. But, like you said, you have a guy who can calm things down, right? Tatum wasn't that guy. That's why it was so big that Steph was in the foul trouble in game 3, because in the third quarter, when they went on that run, you didn't have in those final few minutes where he could have stopped all that from happening. But you had him tonight. And that's the difference. That's why I said when you score, the points matters. Because when it mattered, Steph put the ball in the basket, and it's game over. Now it's a tie series, and the Warriors get home court advantage back. It's a different series. That's why I told you after the last game, I'm like, hey, I'm still not ready to say this is over, because a couple things go the right way for the Warriors. We're right back in this thing.
Yeah,
that's where we find ourselves. Now I don't know what to tell you.
And that's where we find ourselves. And listen, they're going to keep running the same spread out. Whoever's at home is going to give up 3.5 points. For game 5, it's Warriors minus 3.5, totals 212. Warriors minus 160. Now let me see the. Now it's completely flipped. Warriors are minus 140.
There you go.
And the other day when we did the game 3 recap, the Warriors were plus 240.
Plus 240.
And Boston was minus 150.
Look at that.
So now it's completely flipped again, and now we're back on. Warriors are the favorites to win the title.
So no one knows anything.
Yeah, no, it's going to go back and forth. I still like Boston to win the series. I'm not changing that. Just I'm not changing that. I think they're the better overall team.
They scored 97 points tonight. Like we can't at home. They scored 97 points. Like all these players that we talk about on offense, all these different guys that can come out, all these different guys who could do all these different things and how deep they are. They put up 97 points at home and got blanked in the fourth quarter.
19 points in the fourth.
Yeah. And I think got outscored by 14 in the second half altogether. So, look, we can talk about all that, but at the end of the day, hey, watch the film. 97 points when it mattered. It's just like game 6 of the Miami series. Like, y'all need to come out. You got to put teams away. And I get they end up winning. Obviously, they end up winning the Miami series. But you got to put people away. You had to put them away. You could have put them away tonight. You should have came out. You was up 4 at the half. Should have came in the third quarter, handled business. If you handle business in the third, it's not a game because you've owned the fourth quarters up until tonight. It's simple. The mission's simple. They didn't execute. Tatum, where you at?
I think that is the biggest thing. Like for you to score 7 points in the second half and not go out firing. Not that you scored 7 and you couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
You weren't aggressive enough to close the game is the big thing that, is a little mind.
Where's this? Give me the ball. That's me. That's me.
Yes.
That's me.
What is it? The Lance Stevenson? No, not the Lance Stevenson. What's the LeBron story?
Who's your boy? Dion Waiters.
That's the Dion Waiters. Hey, I need the rock.
But like,
what are you doing?
That's what he needs to be doing in that situation. That's another great point. It's not like he was 1 for 18 in the fourth quarter. Yeah. He wasn't even there when you said Tatum when you sent me that text that Tatum disappeared again. I completely forgot that he was in a basketball game.
Yeah, he was.
Like I didn't even think about him. Like, which is crazy when you're talking about a guy, who's supposed to be one of the better players in the NBA, who is one of the better players in the NBA. Certainly from a talent standpoint. So I think this series is back to a lot has changed with this game.
You think so?
Yeah, because it's not like I keep pointing to game 1 where fluky shit happened. In both the Warriors wins, there hasn't been fluky shit. They've just beat these guys. Steph's 43 wasn't fluky.
No, it wasn't fluky. He played really, really well.
It was just really, really good 43.
I do want to get into
I guess Wiggins is fluky because he is so inconsistent and you don't know what could happen in the next game. But yeah.
I do want to talk about, me and you were texting during the game about Draymond and Steve Kerr. I'll give y'all a peek into what we talked about. Nick texted me and he basically says, hey, Draymond doesn't need to be on the floor. I believe Draymond needs to be off the floor. Looney needs to be getting more of these minutes. And he wasn't talking overall in the series. He's talking about right then, right now. Draymond is not as impactful as Kevin Looney right now. He needs to be on the floor. I wanted you to expand on that because we were talking about it. You said you wanted to touch on that. If this would be it would be on Kerr if he didn't pull Draymond off the floor.
Well, yeah, and it was clear. I mean, right when they went on their run throughout most of their run, he ended up putting Draymond in the back at the end of the fourth quarter. But for most of their run, it was going small with Looney at the 5. Looney was rebounding, he was blocking shots, getting putbacks when he could, setting screens, not getting in the way, and again, just kind of bringing that energy that they lacked in Game 3, right? And I think he's a big reason why they were able to out rebound them tonight. And if you look at Draymond, he just wasn't effective. Like, defensively, he was okay, but even with the good defense he was playing, Brown was still getting buckets on him, right? As far as a playmaker, he wasn't really doing anything because Steph was just kind of taking everybody one-on-one and doing his thing. And I felt like he was just kind of getting in the way, man. And the other thing is he hangs out on the perimeter. They're going to give the ball to him, and he shoots it, and it never goes in. Like, he just clanks these threes left and right, man. So I just thought he was completely ineffective. So I thought it put Kerr into an interesting situation because I said after Game 1, I was like, look, man, Draymond doesn't look good in this series. I said it early on. I know he had a really good game too, but if you look at it, 3 out of the 4 games in this series, he's been ineffective. So if I'm Steve Kerr, you really got to consider playing Kevin Looney more minutes and going with that rotation that you went in the third and fourth quarter. Because I think that's where you were most effective. I don't think Draymond is really giving you anything in this series. I think he scored 19 points the entire series. So yeah, if I'm Steve Kerr, I know it puts you in an interesting situation because you're talking about one of the guys who's helped you win the 3 rings and get to 6 NBA finals in the past 8 years. And he's obviously one of the better defensive players of all time and one of the most unique players in NBA history. But call it what it is, man. He looks cooked this series. And it's never like Draymond was a 20-point scorer. You're relying on him for that, but he cannot hit a jump shot. At one point, he took Al Horford off the dribble and just got his shit eaten. I feel like he's ineffective in this series, and you got to look at doing Looney. But I think it's an interesting situation for Kerr because you're benching Draymond Green, who's the heart and soul of your team. He seems to be in
his own. He seems to be in his head.
Yes,
he's missing bunnies. And I'll say this. Last 2 games, he hasn't been chirping like he was chirping in Game 2.
Crowd's on his ass.
Forget about the crowd, though.
Portnoy was in his ass.
Forget about the crowd, though. He's still not chirping. Yo, when you're Draymond, I don't care if you're playing horrendously. you're still chirping. That's just part of your game. Doesn't matter. It's interesting to see him not be very vocal at all the last 2 games, especially tonight. I didn't see him say a word to anybody. He didn't do anything all night. And the only person I saw him talk to was Kerr on the way to the sideline when he got subbed. He said something to Kerr in his ear, but he hasn't gotten anybody's face. He hasn't talked shit. He hasn't pointed at the crowd. And
so if he's not doing that and he's not effective on the court as far as putting up any numbers, then what is he doing?
No, correct. 100%. I just can't figure it out. I know this sounds crazy because I don't even know if I believe this, but this is just a theory I was thinking about. And like I said, I don't believe this, but I want to put it out there for conversation's sake. Is he in a position where he's worried about how he's going to address how he's playing in the podcast after the game, and he's thinking about that, so he's not playing well, and he's in his head about what he's going to say about the game and how it's going to sound and all that? Like what? Because I just can't think of any reason why he's not being Draymond Green. I don't know who this guy is. He's not. His head's not in the game. That's what I just can't. I don't know what it could be.
I'll say this. Another stat they should have included in that final 5-minute stat is how many times was Mark Jackson going to mention Draymond Green's podcast? Because the last 5 is like, what's I wonder what he's going to say on the podcast about this. Well, Draymond's the type of guy who's going to understand, so I'm sure he'll mention that on his spot. Like they talked about Draymond's podcast at least 15 times in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, D just said he's distracted. He's no concentration or focus, and that's exactly what it looks like.
I don't think it has anything to do with the podcast.
What? I mean,
yeah, look, I don't know. I don't think that's it at all. But he does look completely out of it. He
looks out of it though.
He looks, and like I said, he's out of it. He's completely ineffective. Like, and I said it after game 1. I was like, man, he just doesn't look right for this series. Something's going on, which is crazy to say with Draymond because it seems like the type of player you can kind of fit him in any type of situation because he's so low maintenance as far as, touches and things like that. But, man, the Looney minutes have been way better. Like, the Looney minutes have just been way better. But
what is it, Nick? What is it?
I'm not a psychiatrist.
Give me a theory because that's my theory. Maybe it is a little bit the podcast. Maybe.
Come on, that's not that much of a distraction.
He's still a human. He's still a human being though, and he has to come back and talk about him playing extremely poorly. I've never seen him not talk to anybody.
Yeah.
She didn't talk shit to anybody. He didn't get in anybody's face. And it might be that thing where he doesn't have a reason to because he's not playing very well. But he looks like fucking Tony Snell.
He hasn't since game 2. Yeah.
You feel me?
Shout out Tony Snell.
Shout out Tony Snell. Big money Snell.
Tony Snell got $40 million.
I just can't figure out. I'm just trying
the energy and the passion aren't there. Because like you said, even when he's not playing well or not scoring, he brings that passion that they kind of feed off of. And I would say that they're getting all that from Steph this series. Like, Steph's the one that's talking shit. And Steph low-key always talks shit. But Steph's the one that's kind of getting them amped up, getting them fired up. As far as, like, the energy hustle plays, you're getting that from Gary Payton III in the third quarter. You're getting that from Wiggins. So, yeah, from Draymond, you're not really getting anything. In the second half, he benched him. I mean, Kerr feels the same way. Obviously, he didn't put him back in the game. He left him out of the game for most of the fourth.
He was subbing. He didn't play most of the fourth, and he was subbing on and off for offense, defense.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, Steve Kerr, and I kind of applaud Kerr for that because that's what the game called for. Some coaches don't have the heart to do that. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody's like Thibodeau, and I'm going to bench Boozer and Noah in the fourth for fucking Ashik and Taj Gibson. You know what I mean? Not everybody has the heart to bench a star. So I applaud Kerr for that, but yeah, I don't have a theory as to what's going on. I don't think it has anything to do with the podcast. I just think that something got into his head after game 2. I don't know. Maybe it was the Grant Williams altercation. I don't know what it was, but the fire, the passion isn't there. And he's been horrendous on the court. Like, that's the real thing for me. He's been horrendous on the court. Like, he has been terrible. Outside of game 2, he has had zero impact on
it's just so odd because he was so good. He was so good in game 2, and he has been complete dust in all the other games. An absolute non-factor in any phase. Zero.
So, And then again, it's not like, and then it's such a contrast to when Looney was in there. Like tonight, again, like Looney is setting screens, setting double screens for Steph, like doing everything he can to kind of help them win. And Draymond's just not even giving the energy. And like that's what they've needed. It's crazy when you're like, yo, Wiggins brought more energy tonight than Draymond Green. And Wiggins is like the opposite of energy.
Yeah. Is this the best playoff game you've ever seen from Steph Curry?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the best games, period, I've ever seen from Steph Curry.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and without a doubt. Without a doubt. I was thinking that while I was watching. I was like, this is one of the best games I've ever seen from Steph Curry. Points aside, I'm sure he's scored more. I'm sure he's hit more threes. I'm sure he's done more spectacular things. But as far as the impact, what they needed, when he delivered it, how bad they were playing offensively and they could not get a bucket and everything was hard, like you've been saying all series, Steph came in and delivered. That's why I said it. Hey, when you score matters. Don't talk to me about game 134. Talk to me about game 443.
Yeah. To lose game 3 on Wednesday, knowing you have a next game in Boston, knowing you're not really getting a lot of scoring from your people, Clay is not really Clay. Poole will give you 8 to 10 to 12, it seems like. I mean, this is his first finals. To then come in Friday night in a must-win situation so you don't go down 0-3, knowing you have to score a ton of points and are going to have to carry the squad through stretches of the game where you're the only guy doing anything on O. You know they're going to be keyed on you. This is the best defensive team in the league overall, and you come out and do that 43 efficiently. It's the best, probably the best game I've ever seen from Steph.
Yeah.
No help anywhere in sight.
Nope.
He knows if he has a bad game and he doesn't play well, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose the series right then on the Garden floor. And he came out and showed up like that. It's a performance, a master class, a masterpiece, whatever you want to call it, from Steph Curry.
Needed every point. Absolutely.
Needed every bucket the whole way. To close it out, Tatum had a bucket in the fourth quarter. That's it.
Great job.
So
it's really channeling.
He's gonna have to sit down and figure out, just give me the ball on the block and I'll go to work.
He needs
to watch all this other Marcus Smart jumpers and looking for Horford in the corner. Just give me the
score.
Ball and let me go score. Let me get to the basket. Let me do whatever I got to do to make sure that we don't score 2 points in the last 5-15.
You know what I want to know? How many free throws did he shoot? He shot 8 free throws tonight. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. He was going. That's the thing. He was pretty aggressive in the first half. He was hitting a lot of threes. He was going to the basket. And then he just kind of tails off, like we've been saying.
Yeah.
And you've been really keying on it. I've kind of been trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I can't lie to you. But he did. I texted you. I'm like, yo, Tatum just
disappeared.
I
literally, when you said Tatum, it snapped in my head. I was like, oh, damn, Jason Tatum.
I
completely forgot that he was in that ball game. Like, completely. And maybe it was just like the stuff of it all. But, like, yeah, man, like, no joke. Tatum needs to watch some Jordan Poole film. I'll tell you what, Jordan Poole's letting that shit fly.
If Jordan Poole gets a basket, the next time he touches it, it's going up no matter what.
He's like Clarkson.
No matter what, it's going up.
Actually, nobody's like Clarkson. Shut up.
No one's like Jordan Clarkson. Coming off the bench in Utah, that is the greenest light in the league.
Oh, yes.
Beyond green.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Whoever they bring in better be like Snyder and let Clarkson cook, man. Don't try to restrict my man's attempts. Never. That's why he's there.
All right. Game 5 is Monday. What do you think? -3.5.
Man.
Warriors go back home.
Yeah, I think the Warriors
got the momentum.
Yep.
Is this going to be a Warriors Celtics back game 7 in San Francisco for the title? Probably.
Yeah, I think so. I think most likely, and I think that the Warriors definitely win game 5.
Yeah, game 5 is in San Francisco Monday night.
I think if I'm Tatum, maybe I'm shook because the next 2 days are going to be, right?
Yeah, they're going to be on his ass. We're going to be on his ass.
First, he's lucky this game was Friday night. He doesn't do a first take tomorrow.
Not facts. Yeah, he doesn't have to deal
He's
with
gonna
the
do a
talk
first take
shows,
on
yeah.
Monday, but yeah, he's gonna do a first take on Monday. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude,
So
give Stephen A 7 days a week, man. We need Saturday first take for real.
so man, I can't believe Steph went out and did that like that. That was incredible. Clay showed flashes of like some vintage Clay, that top of the key jumper.
Yeah, but
He's
he's
getting wide
also
open looks
missing a
though, but
lot of jumpers that he would
yeah,
normally hit.
yeah,
I mean, he shot 40%, 4 for 10, but he should have been 8 for 10 from 3.
yeah. All right, we'll leave it there, man. No catch up. Sports Talk via Chicago Game 4 recap. We'll be back Monday. Everybody enjoy the weekend. Me and Big Nick the Quick got some work to do tomorrow. Stay tuned on that. Very excited. But yeah, we'll get back to y'all on that. For Big Nick the Quick, I'm your host, Sean Little. No catch up. Sports Talk via Chicago. We're out here.